So the topic for today is sniping, and whether you are looking to start using sniper rifles, Markham's rifles in the game, start including that in your loadout, whether you're playing Warzone or Plunder or multiplayer, or whether you're a seasoned sniper. I thought that I'd share some tips or tricks, or just some things that go through my head when it comes to sniping. I usually run a assault rifle and a sniper rifle, so it is something that I'm familiar with and that I quite enjoy. I would say that sniping is one of my favorite things to do, especially if it elicits an awesome proximity or death chat from an enemy player. But before we get started on any of that, as of today, which is the 8th of October when I'm recording this, the R208 still hasn't been patched. And what that means is that it still exists in its season pass form, which means that there's a certain way that you can build it, which essentially makes the weapon hit scan. What I mean by hit scan, or what hit scan means, is that you are able to pull off almost instantaneously, hit shots with 2 to 3 frames of travel time between you pulling the trigger and the shot hitting, which means you don't have to adjust for distance or adjust for the speed that the target is moving or anything. You simply have to have your cursor over the target when you pull the trigger, and that'll be enough to get you a kill. Now, I can give you, one or two or three or five, or fuck it, here's 10 reasons why you should be using this gun. Okay, but I mean, all jokes aside, the point is, in its current state, there is no reason to use any other gun except the R208 for long distance engagements where you would normally use another sniper rifle or another marksman's rifle. Until they patch it, it is far more dominant than any of the other rifles or anything that we'll look at today. And if it remains in its current state in the game, which I highly doubt that it will, it'll just be like the only sniper rifle or marksman rifle that people use. Of course, you can use other ones, but you're at a disadvantage to someone using this for sure. And yeah, that's just it. But let's quickly just look at that particular loadout that I was referring to. So if you do want to use the R208, you have unlocked it, you have gone through the season pass, and you have leveled the attachments, then this is the loadout that you should be using if you want to get that hit scan effect. So that's the monolithic suppressor, it's the longest barrel, the SBR 26-inch, the tac laser, so you can get nice, fast, snappy aim to your eye, the Solar Zero, which you can't see because it's behind my fucking face here, but what you're looking for is this scope here, the Solar Zero SBR 28mm. This is entirely up to you, but this is a fantastic scope for this gun, so I highly recommend it. And then the main thing that makes the gun hit scan, and it's somehow, I believe, a combination between these two, so it's the barrel and this, but mostly it's the bullet, is either the .300 Norma or the .338 Lapua. Both of these rounds as ammunition allow you to pull off the hit scan shots that you saw in those clips, and yeah, it's just super fucking unfair. So this is the one you gotta use until they patch it. Now, the first thing that we can look at is the sensitivity. And generally speaking, in shooter games or in the shooter genre, more sensitivity is a good thing. And what I mean by that is more sensitivity on your mouse, because it allows you to look around you much quicker and just to generally be able to pull off great snapshots and 180s and that sort of thing, right? But something that I realized a couple of months into Warzone, and especially when it comes to sniping, is sensitivity in this game, less is more. And what I mean by that is, at some point what I did is I ended up setting my sensitivity all the way down for my mouse, on the actual mouse itself, which most gaming mice have a way for you to change the sensitivity on the mouse. This is a G502, so I'm able to choose between a couple of different settings, but also in the game you can change this. And to start at the lowest possible setting and play a little bit and slowly inch it up until you start feeling comfortable that what's happening is when you snap onto someone, you don't overshoot or you don't overswing past them. And you'll very easily realize that your sensitivity might be too high if you get into a lot of situations where you are misjudging when you see someone in the corner of your eye and you move your cursor onto them and you either move too short and don't completely land on them, or you move over them, or you're moving to them and everything looks fine, but then the minute you aim down sights, then you end up like sort of missing or twitching or something like that, and your shot ends up missing. Generally speaking, lowering your sensitivity is gonna deal with that situation. But the sensitivity, of course, is accessed here just on the keyboard, mouse, and of course this is basically for anybody that's playing with a keyboard and a mouse. So this is not really gonna help you if you're playing with a controller, but also, if you're playing on PlayStation or Xbox with a keyboard and a mouse, then this can also assist you. I'm not going to discuss all of these settings because the bottom line is I've kept all of the rest of the stuff at default, and there are things like mouse smoothing, mouse filtering, mouse acceleration, that you can mess with, but generally speaking, the default settings for these are more than good enough. And a lot of the times these are just there for you to deal with a particular issue. Like, let's say for instance you have incredibly bad FPS due to like a bad graphics or not as great graphics card, then things like mouse smoothing and mouse filtering can sometimes help you out with those frame skips, for instance, right? But more specifically, what I'm talking about is the mouse sensitivity here. So I believe the default when you install the game fresh is it's on 10. Now I've had this as low as 4 and then sort of started working my way back up to 7 again, alongside the changes which I made to my mouse's sensitivity. That has allowed me to much better control the snap aim and so on that I mentioned, but this is very much a feeling and a feeling intuitive kind of thing. So the only thing I can advise you to do is to lower it down by a couple of percent. So if you're on 10 right now, take it down to 7 and see what it feels like for you. You might be really pleasantly surprised by what the effect that gives you. The only other thing I want to mention is aim down sight mouse sensitivity, which has 2 possible settings. One is legacy and one is relative. The difference here being that on legacy, your sensitivity, right, changes depending on the how, if you're aiming down sights or not, basically. So your sensitivity is a certain amount when you're zoomed out, and then when you aim down sight, it's much more sensitive, right, or less sensitive depending on which setting you pick here. That's legacy. If you take relative, it uses the same sensitivity, and it doesn't matter whether you are aiming down sights or whether you're just shooting over the barrel of the gun, right? And what I mean by when I say the same sensitivity is it applies an adjustment based on the resolution of your monitor. So the bottom line, the difference between the two here is that if you're using legacy, it can be quite jarring that you'll have situations where when you're not aiming down sight, you're used to it, but then as soon as you aim down sight, you'll have these weird situations where you'll just like pop and shoot over a guy's shoulder, or you'll just shoot past him or something like that, and you're like, fuck, my aim was perfect when I was moving onto him, but as soon as I aimed down sight. And that's because that adjustment produced a little bit of a flick or something like that and made it a little bit more sensitive. But anyway, even not messing with that, this is your port of entry. So just start messing with the sensitivity, bring it a little bit more down. As I said, less is more in this case that I've realized with mouse sensitivity, and especially when you're sniping. Secondly, let's talk loadouts, or more specifically which weapons you should be using. Now, I personally, I'll talk about 2 here today, which are the 2 most dominant ones, the two most, how can I say, the 2 best options for you to pick when you're sniping. One of them is a sniper rifle, one of them is a marksman rifle. You can use anything else, right? You can use other guns than the 2 that I'm mentioning today, but these two are by far the best option based on the combination of attachments which they have, and also the features of the guns, whether they have a slight speed, aim down sight speed increase, or they have a movement speed that's slightly faster than others. So you are going to put yourself at a disadvantage, however small that disadvantage might be, if you use another rifle other than the two that I'm mentioning. And this isn't just me saying this. These are I'm not fucking reinventing the wheel here. These are cookie cutter builds which are used by streamers, professional players, all of them around the world, and also by just a lot of players that play the game. So there's a reason why these weapons drift to the top and why you see them, a lot of clips of them or anything like that, and that's because they are the best. So yes, I understand that you feel that the Dragunov is the shit and you want to fucking use that, and fucking power to you. But if you're losing counter snipe engagements or sniping engagements, or just getting ripped up by an HDR, for instance, then you fucking know why that is. Okay, so as I said, the first one we could look at is the HDR. It's a personal favorite of mine. I use the HDR pretty much, let's say 90% of the time, or at least now. I was until the R208 showed up, but yeah. The loadout that you're looking for here is the mono suppressor, the longest barrel, the 26.9, the tac laser, once again for the reason that you want that quick aim to your eye. And then I personally, as my build, I also use the stock, the FTAC Stalker Scout, as my fourth attachment, and then my fifth attachment I use Full Metal Jacket. Now there is some variance between the optic and the perk combination that you can use here. So whether you're using a perk on the gun or whether you're using an optic, but the other four, the mono suppressor, the barrel, the tac laser, and the stock, is generally considered your best in slot items. So you can change between the perk and the optic depending on what your preference is. And here are some options for you. I use Full Metal Jacket firstly because it allows me to get, instead of getting just armor cracks when I'm shooting guys in trucks or vehicles and airplanes, or through soft surfaces like doors or things like that, this can often score you a drop or a kill on someone that's low on plates or low on health, or where otherwise you would have just reduced their plates to zero, you can actually down someone. So I've just found that my mileage with the Full Metal Jacket perk has been fantastic. Since I switched to that, I'm seeing a lot more drops there where usually guys would get away, which is of course super fucking frustrating. So some other variants that you can do here is, of course, instead of Full Metal Jacket, you can use sleight of hand, which gives you faster reloads, which is always good with a sniper rifle of this size because the reloads are quite slow and you only have 5 in the fucking magazine before you have to reload. The other one that's also seen sometimes in the wild is focus. Focus allows you to ignore flinch of incoming fire and return a bullet without your aim fucking jumping because you're taking damage. But test this out yourself and you'll see that focus on this particular sniper rifle on the HDR doesn't really make all that difference between a non-focus or a focus attachment. You still take a shitload of flinch and it is still incredibly difficult to return fire. So in my opinion, this is a waste of a perk. So for me, it would be between sleight of hand and Full Metal Jacket. And then lastly, there is a school of thought here that says that the basic scope is not sufficient, and you'll find some people that prefer the variable zoom scope. The variable, of course, allowing you to switch between 5.5, which is like considered medium, to medium long range, more like medium, and then 12.6, which is almost like long to extreme range, and that's what's letting you pull off these 450, 500 meter shots, which the HDR is very capable of doing. So of course, if you take the scope, you're gonna have to eliminate the perk here, but as you can see, I personally prefer just playing with that scope there. Okay. Next, the other option, if you don't want to use the HDR and you would rather want to use a marksman rifle, because yes, sniper rifles, I would classify them as a slower to a long distance engagement weapon, whereas if you want to be more aggressive with your playstyle and want to be more, how can I say, assertive and fast and, just moving around a lot quicker, then a marksman rifle might be a better option for you. And in that case, you have an excellent contender in the Kar 98. Now, I personally don't use this rifle a lot. I think I have less than 300 kills with it, so it's not a lot at all. But again, this is the standard loadout for this, right? So it's the mono suppressor, it's the longest barrel, which is the Sigurd Custom 27.6. It's the tac laser, it's the sniper scope, and again, So just showing you, it's the sniper scope. And again, hidden behind my fucking mug is a stock, the F-Tag Sport Comb. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, just like with the HDR, there are a couple of different flavors that you could be using here, which are all considered good, but it just depends on your preference. So again, with the sniper scope, you could in fact say, no, fuck that. I need me the variable zoom scope so you can get those long distance hits. Now, the variable zoom scope here is different to the one with the HDR, because here it's 3.5 to 8 instead of the 5.5 to 12.5, but still nonetheless, it allows you some flexibility in where you're dropping the shots. But I've just found that just the standard sniper scope is decent enough for me when I'm using this. What you can do is you can take the stock off, as I've mentioned, and then you can invest in some perks. Full metal jacket on this is not as provocative, as fucking sexy as it is on the HDR, so I don't fucking enjoy it a lot. But what does work really well is focus. Focus works excellent with a marksman rifle, where the flinch is almost eliminated completely when a fucking other player is shooting you, and so then you are able to basically deliver shots back on guys that are engaging you. Sleight of hand is also not a bad option, because you are able to fucking load in those bolt action bullets a lot quicker than normal, so always a good option as well. That's it then basically for these two, and as I've mentioned, you are probably capable, and you're more than welcome to use any of the others, but just know that these two are going to give you a level playing field against someone else that's using it, and a slight advantage against, for instance, a guy that's using like an AC-50 or something like that. And this advantage can be in various forms. It can be the fact that you can aim down sights quicker. It can be the fact that your bullet drop is significantly less, so you need to spend less time calculating where you're going to place the shot, and just basically shoot a lot quicker. And we all know who shoots first fucking and hits is the fucking winner, right? Great. So I mean, that's then loadout. So then the last thing that I want to cover is just that I think it's Wayne Gretzky that said that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And something that I find a lot when I go up against other snipers, or also when I play against, with people, and I see this, is that there tends to be this thing where you sometimes wait for the perfect shot. And please understand that what I'm not advocating is just to fucking gung-ho fire off bullets into the air and go nuts. But a lot of the times what you have to start doing is you have to start relying on your instincts. And so most times there isn't going to be a perfect shot, and most times the guy isn't going to fucking stand perfectly still, and most times the guy isn't going to show his head to you, he's only going to show his chest to you or something like that. But in those cases, it is still better to take the shot than not take the shot. There are variables at play here, like for instance, that guy could be low on plates, so a fucking body shot is enough to drop him. Or you could be thinking that you're pulling off a body shot, but last minute he fucking ducks and he catches it in the head. Or you could miss. But the bottom line is, when that guy runs away, he could run away with some damage on him, which could allow maybe one of your teammates to down him, or him to lose to someone else, and that's still good for you. But it's still better to rather take the shot than not take it. So when you're aiming on a shot, whether you're in the first guy that's engaging or whether you're returning fire, trust your instincts, and also start believing that you're going to hit the shots, and just take the shot is what I'm trying to say. Alongside this, as a final point, is just the thing that whether you're choosing to play with the R208, which will probably still be a great contender after being patched, or whether you're using the Car 98, or whether you're using HDR or any of the other ones, pick one of these weapons, choose the attachments that give you the best overall advantage, and play repeatedly with this gun. You have options with the weapons, for instance, that if you choose the reticle, you have different kinds of reticles, and a lot of these vastly change the how the visibility of the gun works, and how your eye learns to see, okay, but if I'm shooting a guy at 500 and I'm taking into account the bullet drop, then I need to use the second little line on my reticule. And you're only going to start noticing nuance like that when you use the weapon more and more and more. So by all means, try all the fucking guns, right? Because you never know, you might find something you like. But when you do have something that you think like this is the one that's going to give you you know, the most mileage or the most headshots or whatever the fuck, or you just like the sound of it or whatever, then use that gun and get good with that gun. Because like I said, the nuance of this, the instinctual firing, just trusting this fucking thing in your hand that you've killed so many people with, is gonna start showing, and you'll start firing first, and you're gonna you're gonna turn a lot of your I sometimes win sniping battles into I mostly win sniper battles situation. That's it. I'm going to leave you with a couple of the snipes that I pulled off, while I was sort of, preparing to create this video. And they're non, R208 related, so it's mostly with the HDR, which I fucking absolutely love. Hopefully this video gets you to try out some of these weapons, or, if you've always, been like, nah, fuck, sniping's too hard, I want to do it. It's not hard at all. It's easy to get into. It's hard to master, but there's so much fun in that journey of mastering it, and it is super satisfying pulling off these long distance shots and, taking guys out. So enjoy the clips, have fun, see you in game. Cheers.
Mark the target. Objective is to eliminate the bounty target. Enemy UAV overhead. Hostile dropping in.
No,